The 1980s were a decade defined by a certain jarring shift in how we consumed music. When MTV launched in 1981, it didn't just change the sound of the radio, it changed the face of fame itself.
A hot wind on my shoulder, and the touch of the world that is older.
For a brief, neon-lit window in time, you didn't need a 5-album deal or a sophisticated image to become a household name. You just needed a high-concept music video, a catchy synthesizer hook, and perhaps a very strange hat. This environment created the perfect petri dish for the bizarre one-hit wonder songs that defied logic, bypassed traditional genre boundaries, and somehow managed to scale the Billboard charts before vanishing back into the artistic ether. To look back at these 10 tracks is to revisit a fever dream of pop culture where the line between genius and accident was perpetually blurred. Fish Heads, 1982.
Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads.
This is arguably the most unsettling novelty song ever to grace the airwaves. Consisting of high-pitched, sped-up vocals singing about the various things one can do with severed fish anatomy. Taking them to the movies, for example, or watching them play drums, it feels like a nursery rhyme written in an asylum. What made it a hit wasn't just the bizarre auditory experience, but the music video, directed by a young Bill Paxton. The visual of fish heads in tiny sweaters became an MTV staple, proving that if you made something weird enough, the burgeoning cable audience would embrace it simply out of sheer curiosity. It remains a masterclass in the outsider art that the 80s occasionally allowed into the mainstream.
Roly-poly fish heads are never seen drinking cappuccino in Italian restaurants with Oriental women.
Puttin on the Ritz, 1982.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits?
Shortly after the fish heads took their bow, a Dutch musician named Taco Akkersay decided the world needed a synth-pop cover of a 1920s Irving Berlin standard. The song itself is an aggressive collision of eras, featuring heavy drum machines and a frantic tap dancing break. However, it's the presentation that truly lingers in the memory. Taco performed the track in a tuxedo with heavy theatrical white face paint, looking like a dystopian cabaret performer. The original video was so controversial for its use of vaudeville-era makeup that it was eventually banned, adding a layer of notoriety to a song that was already deeply strange. It stands as a reminder that the early 1980s were obsessed with theatricality, even when it veered into the deeply uncomfortable.
The types who wear a day coat, pants with stripes, and cutaway coat, perfect fits.
The Safety Dance, 1982.
Cause your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, well, they're no friends of mine. See.
While the song is now a corporate karaoke staple, its origins were surprisingly rebellious. Lead singer Ivan Doroschuk wrote it after being kicked out of a club for pogoing, a style of dancing that bouncers hated. The resulting video is a medieval-themed hallucination. Set in a lush English village, it features Doroschuk wandering through fields with a jester and a goat, surrounded by Morris dancers who look like they belong in a folk horror film. There is no logical connection between the heavy synthesizer beat and the Renaissance fair aesthetic, yet the song's infectious "sa" hook made it a global phenomenon. It remains a masterclass in the outsider art that the 80s occasionally allowed into the mainstream.
We've got all your life in mind. As long as we abuse it, never gonna lose it.
Rock Me Amadeus, 1985. In 1985, the American public, notoriously resistant to non-English music, made a German-language rap song about an 18th century classical composer the #1 hit in the country. Falco, an Austrian superstar, portrayed Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart as the original punk idol. The song is a dizzying mix of operatic bombast, hip-hop rhythm, and spoken-word biography. The video, featuring Mozart surrounded by leather-clad bikers and powdered wig aristocrats, perfectly captured the decade's "more is more" philosophy. It remains the only German-language song to ever top the Billboard Hot 100. Tarzan Boy, 1985. Tarzan Boy, a hit single by the Italian band Baltimora, became an undeniable earworm in 1985, merging Italo-disco beats with a jungle-inspired theme. The song, with its infectious chorus and upbeat rhythm, was a defining moment in the Italo-disco genre. However, the track is more notable for its quirky production and visual elements than for its lyrical depth. While Jimmy McShane is credited as the lead singer, he was in fact the frontman lip-syncing the track, with the real vocals provided by the producer. This odd production choice didn't detract from the song's popularity, and it still echoes through pop culture today. The accompanying music video for Tarzan Boy is a green screen spectacle featuring McShane swinging on vines against a series of cartoonish jungle landscapes. It's low budget, yet captivating in its campy charm, embodying the wild excesses of the 1980s. Despite having a simple chorus made mostly of vowels, the song became an international hit, landing in numerous commercials and movie trailers, cementing its status as a nostalgic anthem. Tarzan Boy's enduring popularity speaks to the power of its infectious beat and its unforgettable, almost childlike simplicity. Mexican Radio, 1982. Wall of Voodoo's Mexican Radio is a quintessential new wave track that mixes spaghetti western elements with the paranoia of the early 80s. Released in 1982, the song draws inspiration from the so-called border blaster radio stations, which broadcast from Mexico into the U.S. These stations, often operating with minimal regulations, became an emblem of the underground, subversive radio culture of the time. The song's instrumental arrangement is a blend of eerie synthesizers and jangly guitars, perfectly encapsulating the feeling of a desolate, heat-soaked desert landscape. Stan Ridgway's delivery of the lyrics is simultaneously humorous and unsettling, capturing a paranoid, feverish energy that echoes the new wave movement's affinity for experimentation and irony. His nasal, twitchy voice complements the song's atmosphere, making it sound like the soundtrack to a bizarre desert hallucination. The music video, an iconic example of early MTV absurdity, features Ridgway's head popping out of a bowl of pinto beans, a surreal and highly memorable image that became synonymous with the art school aesthetic that defined the era's music videos. Mexican Radio became a strange, infectious anthem, resonating with audiences who were drawn to its quirky narrative and unique sound.
Radio, I'm on a Mexican.
Pac-Man Fever, 1982.
Eat 'em all up just as soon as their time do.
In 1982, video games were taking the world by storm, and few tracks encapsulated that era's obsession more perfectly than Pac-Man Fever by Buckner and Garcia. The song, built entirely around the sound effects from the Pac-Man arcade game, became a smash hit. The rhythmic waka waka of the titular character gobbling pellets, paired with the ominous dying sound of the game's ghost enemies, made for a track that was as much a strategy guide as a pop song. The song wasn't just about the game, it was a celebration of the cultural mania surrounding the arcade phenomenon. Pac-Man Fever is a quirky, fun, and somewhat bizarre artifact of the early 80s, when video games were new and exciting, and people were completely consumed by the experience. The lyrics, which describe the game and its various levels, might seem trivial, but the song captured the electric energy of the time. It was an era when arcade games were a cultural event, and Pac-Man Fever became the perfect soundtrack to that unique moment. The track reached the top 10 on the charts, marking the peak of the video game craze in music. The success of Pac-Man Fever shows how deeply embedded video game culture was in the zeitgeist of the time.
So I'm heading out the back door and in the other side.
I Eat Cannibals, 1982. I Eat Cannibals by Toto Colo, released in 1982, is a bizarre mix of safari punk, bubblegum pop, and unsettlingly quirky imagery. The song's lyrics, full of cannibalistic metaphors, were paired with high-energy, frenetic choreography that felt more like a feverish aerobics class than a music video. The group's bold fashion choices, which involved outfits that seemed to be made from neon ribbons and industrial trash bags, added to the eccentricity of the song. This colorful, bizarre aesthetic embodied the post-punk energy of the time, when art and fashion often collided in unpredictable ways. Musically, the track is a high-tempo, upbeat, and oddball pop anthem. The performance, filled with jerky dance moves and over-the-top energy, was a visual and auditory explosion that couldn't possibly be sustained for a full career. Despite the song's relatively strange and fleeting nature, I Eat Cannibals managed to capture a moment of post-punk eccentricity, setting it apart from other mainstream hits of the time. Though the band's commercial success was short-lived, the song left a lasting impact due to its in-your-face style, vivid imagery, and playful absurdity. The track is now remembered as a cult classic and a unique footnote in 80s pop music. Obsession, 1984. Released in 1984, Obsession by Animotion is an intense, melodramatic synth rock track that perfectly encapsulates the over-the-top aesthetic of the 80s. The song features a dual vocal performance that sounds like a heated argument between two fashionable characters, both belting out their emotions with a sense of urgency. The aggressive, driving rhythm and electronic beats fuel the dramatic energy of the song, adding to the track's intensity. The video for Obsession is equally extravagant, with the band members dressed as knights, gladiators, and Egyptian royalty, staring intently into the camera with dramatic layers of eyeliner. The absurdity of the band's theatrical costumes and their intense, almost comical expressions further underscores the song's melodramatic tone. Though the band took the song incredibly seriously, the video's extravagant and over-the-top nature has given the song a sense of unintended humor over time. Still, its driving beat and dramatic theme helped make it a defining track of the era, resonating with those who were drawn to the exaggerated aesthetic of 80s pop music. Mana Mana, 1977/1980s.
Mana Mana. Mana Mana.
Originally composed for an Italian film in the 1960s, Mana Mana became an iconic hit in the 80s thanks to its reappearance on The Muppet Show. The song, a combination of scat-style singing and nonsense syllables, captured the playful, whimsical essence of the Muppets and was instantly memorable. The infectious melody and the silliness of the lyrics, or lack thereof, made it a cultural touchstone, not just in the 80s, but for decades to come. The song's popularity grew exponentially with each re-release, proving that a catchy tune, even without meaningful lyrics, could become a global sensation. It's a perfect example of the oddball hits that the 80s embraced, demonstrating how music could transcend traditional formats and still have a lasting impact. While the Muppets version is the most famous, Mana Mana continues to appear in pop culture, commercials, and various nostalgic settings. The song's success is a testament to the fact that sometimes the most memorable songs don't need complex lyrics, just a melody that sticks with you long after it's over. The legacy of these songs is a reminder of a time when the music industry was willing to take risks on the strange and the surreal. While many of these artists never saw the charts again, they left behind artifacts that are more memorable than the polished hits of their peers. They represent the glitch in the system that made the 1980s the most colorful and confusing decade in pop history.
Mana Mana.